episode 99, closing to 100 episodes, and we have a very special guest on.
Wow.
I'm very excited to have him on, Klaus. So a little bit of introduction about Kyle and what he does, background, real estate. Again, this today is a real estate show, so if you want to learn about real estate, maybe
Perfect.
some acting.
That's my expertise, real estate.
Here you go.
And acting.
And acting. If you're looking for acting tips, hey, stick in and keep watching. So he's an actor and a successful entrepreneur from Pottstown, Pennsylvania. He moved to New York City after college in 2008 to pursue his acting career. While doing so, he achieved great success through real estate sales and investing, becoming a millionaire by age 30. Great achievement, so congratulations. After 3 years of working full-time as a real estate agent, Klaus quickly became a broker and opening his first business in 2012, Prestige Properties, a real estate firm with multiple offices in the state of New Jersey. He is also partner and investor in real estate developments in the area. In 2019, Klaus and his team reached platinum level for sales volume in a single year. Wow, another congratulations. Klaus is also owner, founder of the North Pole, an online retail company, and he recently started dipping his toes in the restaurant business. So, man, talking about diversification, right?
Busy guy, yeah.
While running successful business, Klaus can also be seen on TV shows like Backlist, Billions, Homeland, Happy, and The Last OG, to name a few. Again, and you can reach out to Kyle on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. The website is kyleklaus.com, and those are going to be included down below in the show notes, so it's easier for you to follow. But Kyle, I just want to say thank you today for being on the show.
Thank you very much. And thank you for that introduction. That was actually the first, I just got that bio written up from my publicist, and that is the first time I heard it out loud, and it actually sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty good. Encapsulates everything. I appreciate that. By the way, it is, and this is a total, look, I've had people saying this all my life growing up. It's Claus, like Santa Claus.
Klaus.
Not Klaus.
Not
yeah.
Klaus.
It's probably supposed to be pronounced Klaus, but everybody says Claus.
Sorry about that. I just
it's all good. It's all good.
I just tried to make you German.
Yeah. Well, it's spelled like that. It probably should be. You know, I am half German, so.
Oh, here you go. Here you go. So now it makes sense. So I'm
not
making you. You are a German. Okay. Got it. So can we talk about the background? And again, like, let's try to start somewhere. Let's try to find a ground to start, because 2008, kind of, you know, a shaky time for you. Well, not for you, maybe for the industry itself as a financial real estate industry. And then you moved to New York and to pursue your acting career. So maybe we can talk about that. I mean, how did you find your passion for acting in the first place?
No, that's a good place to start, because it really was, I graduated college around 2007 timeframe. And I remember trying to figure out, you know, exactly what I wanted to do. I went to school for political science, quickly realized that I wanted nothing to do with politics, but it was a very broad thing. And, you know, I was involved in, I really, you know, you have those passions growing up. You want to be a sports star, you want to be something. So I was like, wow, I would love to be an actor, a professional actor, but that's kind of like a pipe dream. You know, some people think like, well, I can never do that. And I was in Pennsylvania, so it wasn't like I was in Los Angeles or New York City or anything. And once I realized I wanted to kind of pursue this, that was the first step, was realizing what right now I call it my why. My big why was acting, right? It was my passion to drive everything else to become successful. And, you know, when you think of actors, you're like, well, they're waiters or, you know, bartenders or something like that. Right. So I remember, you know, hearing about my uncle doing real estate and doing it on the weekends and making great money on it. And, you know, he was also a cop. So I was like, well, if he can do that and make good money in real estate, that's what just in my mind, it clicked. And I got right into real estate. And then right around 2008, I was driving up to New York City. It's about 4 hours away from Pennsylvania. And I was driving up there all the time. And I was like, I can't sustain this, you know? So I just quickly, it just made sense to me that I would move to, you know, New York to be closer to the action and to, not to mention real estate is like quadruple or more of what it is worth in Pennsylvania. So that was, appealing as well. And I immediately got my real estate license around here, and it was flexible that I could do that and sustain my, go after my acting goals. And then, the housing crash and the financial crash happened in 2008, which is right at the time I moved up here. But the funny thing is that when I got up here, that never really affected me. Cause one, I didn't really have any money saved up at that time. It was like, I was living paycheck to paycheck, like moving from my hometown. And I just started hustling as fast as possible in real estate. And, one thing led to another, and I just became really successful in more rentals than sales at that time, because sales were really taking a hit. The housing market crashed, and it didn't really affect me as much because I was just finding another avenue to find success, which was real estate rentals. And I guess that's where it really started taking off. And, I worked for 3 years really hard, and then ended up opening my own brokerage because I just realized I could do this whole thing myself. And the even better thing to do would be to have people working under me so that it would really free up my time to pursue acting. So still acting was still in that back of my head as a passion,
Got it. So the first question is, why New York? Why not California?
All right. So I feel like you got to have, there's always pluses and minuses for everything. You got to weigh everything, right? So in every decision I feel like you make, that's a big decision. You just weigh out the pluses and minuses. And then once you make a decision, you just go full force with it, because there's no, if it's basically, I had the idea of New York or LA, right? So the big plus in my mind about New York was, one, it was a 2-hour drive from Pennsylvania, from my hometown, and family's big and important to me. And I knew that wherever I was going to go, it would probably be, a forever kind of thing. It would be like, I really wanted to have the long-term, I always had the long-term vision of, being successful there. So I guess I was like, well, you know what? New York is the second best place in the world to be for acting. So that's not too bad. You know what I mean? So I couldn't do the acting the way I wanted to at the level I wanted to in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. It just didn't have the market there. So I just decided, New York was the second best place, if not, the first. And another big driving point, which is you might not have known this about me, but I ended up at the time, before I moved to New York, coming across Mark Wahlberg. Are you familiar with the actor Mark Wahlberg?
Oh, I think everybody.
I think everybody is now, right? Okay. Well, at the time, I don't think he was as famous, but he was doing a couple films in Philadelphia. And I know for the main actors, they need a stand-in and a double for them to do some scenes. And I remember getting a chance. I talked to him. I worked on a couple projects with him: Invincible, The Happening, The Lovely Bones, major motion pictures. And I remember going up to him a couple times because I was like, man, I got to ask him a few questions. And one of the questions I asked him was, hey, what would you give? The first question I asked him was, hey, what would you give an up and coming actor as the best suggestion to do? And his answer was, you got to get to where the action is, New York or LA. So he had it in my mind, New York or LA. And then the second question I asked him, which was on another film when I had a chance to, was, hey, Mark, which would you choose, New York or LA? And he said, you know what? Doesn't even really matter, man. He's like, he's like, the 5-year plan is just to be bi-coastal anyway. So you want to get to the level of where it doesn't really matter where you are at, because, you could be on both coasts, and there's a lot of, big name actors living in New York City. So that made my decision a little clearer.
Got it. Again, I'll probably ask Mark a different decision. I would be like, how do you get the shreds That would be.
How do you get the shreds? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I knew that answer. I just didn't want to know his answer because it's probably a lot of hard work and waking up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, we know, we know the routine. Yeah, but it's like, because it's not my business. Like, acting is not my thing. But like, when it comes to choosing, like Big Apple is, the City of Angels. Now, at least the people who are in acting, they get that piece of advice. Is just, whatever closer city you're to, like it's travel location. So kind of makes sense.
Look there, and once I moved there, there's so much production going on in New York City. So, and it almost surpassed LA. So, so it was a good decision, I feel like, in my mind.
So look, the question is, I don't know if you will be able to answer that, but without, again, discrediting all the work, the films that you did, but would you be able to kind of pick one which you think will be kind of your biggest achievement when it comes to the acting career?
Yeah, probably in 2019 was actually probably my biggest year. I had a recurring role on The Blacklist, and I had a really good role opposite Tracy Morgan on The Last OG. And then this show called Happy, which is a very funny, it's a dark humor kind of show. But I had a great scene on there where I actually played a Manhattan real estate. I actually played a client looking for a real estate property. So it's funny how things just came full circle. And I was like, that was probably my best role ever. And I was like, well, I know exactly. I've had, countless hours of real-time experience with this. Yeah. So, yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Now you're just living with a character, you
exactly. Right.
You became one. Which is awesome. Exactly. So again, can you talk about, your experience starting out to work as a broker, which again is New York. So I don't know if a lot of people who are watching, are they familiar with the New York market, because there's a lot of people kind of looking at the trend and, like a baby boomer trend. And there are a lot of people investing and buying real estate kind of southeast, southwest. So maybe you can talk about your personal experience. I mean, how was it, personally for you to kind of transition from acting part, which of course there is some business parts involved into that, into, like sales and business kind of, mentality, all of those pieces?
Sure. So one, to relate the business side of acting is a business, to relate it to real estate and to any business in general, there's different aspects of the business, right? There's, like acting, for example, has the craft. Like you have to know the craft of acting, but then that's separate from the business side where I need to know, have that business mindset of how to get to the next level and, meet the right people and all that. So with real estate, the way that relates to, I can relate it to real estate easily as far as like being a broker and knowing what to say to people and knowing what sales are and how to get, motivate people or flesh out the questions or whatever it is, talk to people. That's the skill part of it, right? That's the craft. And then the business side is just numbers. It's just, it's just being a good businessman. And in my mind, I was always good with that. I don't know if it was naturally or not, but it was just made sense to keep your overhead low, not overextend, and just, have a good game plan, whether it's a napkin plan or what, it's just to have a, just have it written down, basically a plan. And the transition happened where, I just became such a successful agent in my first company up here. And, it started out, I was running around with a chicken with my head cut off, just like, not knowing, like brand new, floundering everywhere. And then I finally broke through about month 6, which just now, like I said, I was churning rentals out. I was probably doing like 6 a month at this time. And just so you can be aware, like in New York City, rentals are about $3,000 to $4,000. So you're getting a month broker fee. And if I'm doing 6 a month, I'm like, okay, now I'm kind of knowing what I'm doing, right? And I'm getting compensated very good for it. So now I just got to keep that up. And then what happened was there was a one of the defining moments. I remember coming across this movie. I was taking a lot of like acting mentorship programs where it was like talking about mindset and all that stuff. And I was relating that to all different areas of my life. And I remember watching this movie called The Secret by Rhonda Burns, something like that. And, you know, whether you believe in that or not, there was a lot of stuff that I just took from that. And one of the biggest things was about visualizing what you want and feeling the feelings of having it now and just going about it in your day and going after it. And I remember the breakthrough month that I had where I was just like, okay, I set an unrealistic goal about doing, I think it was making 20 grand in sales or in rentals or something that month, and doing like 10 deals and getting an acting job, and just going, that seems unrealistic to me, but if I can get that, I know there's some truth to this. And I just said, all right, for this month, I'm going to try that. And I really, it felt like a lie at first. It felt like, Kyle, you're ridiculous. But I went out and I just said, you know what? It's just going to come, and I'm just going to do the work. And I did that, and I reached that goal with that first month. And it was double everything I did prior to that. So I was like, wow, there's got to be some truth to this. Like, it was just like deals were coming, and I got hired for an acting job, and just deals were coming at the same time in real estate. And that was the turnaround. And I was doing on average about 12 to 15 deals a month then. And the transition happened was this: when I go, okay, you got to work as 3 years as a real estate salesperson to be able to open your own brokerage. So I was right about that time. And then I remember just writing out a napkin plan to go, okay, how much would overhead be if we got an office? Like, you know, say it's $2,000 a month to rent an office, this much for an admin, this much for this person. And then if I go, okay, well, if I could have 5 people that I could say, do exactly this, and they're on this split to the company, we would be, you know, breaking even easily, you know, and then making profit. So it was basically like a napkin plan. I remember drawing it out and going, okay, this is the overhead, agent 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just going, all right, this is it. Like, I can see this in my eye, and then going, well, it's a no-brainer now. Like, there's no guessing about it. It's just like, I need that and I can do it. And even safer than that was like, I could sustain it myself with the amount of volume I was doing. So even if at the first couple months I didn't have anybody doing it, just by breaking away from my old company, I could, like, and not paying them in, I could sustain it myself. So that's kind of what got me in the mindset of opening the brokerage. It was like a no-brainer.
Well, it was no brainer, but again, I just want to clear this out for the people who are like, because I understand the process, the way you thought about the entire thing. And first of all, you kind of took this part of believing in something, which of course you mentioned the Rhonda Barn, the secret part.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know if it makes sense, like if it's truth or not, but I'm just going to take it for granted. And I would say it's the reality, and it's possible to attract those type of things. But what you did with that belief, you took massive action. And with that massive action, you got the results. And those results just put it extra belief into your system. And it was like, man, that actually works.
It's like a circle.
It's like a circle.
Like a cycle. Yeah.
And that's the key to the success. And that's why we achieved it. And one, like, man, it actually works, you know? So, and that's where you pursue that. So I want to kind of talk about the Prestige Property Group, which you can find, of course, on the website. It's Prestige Property Group, GRP.com. Of course, that link is going to be down below. But just wanted to ask you, because I'm looking at the listings, which is like, it's pretty insane numbers. We're looking at the multifamily houses, condos, land. So we have those properties, and we're talking like thousands of listings. So how part of those listings and getting all those deals done was like just you being famous and known person?
I mean, now it's, you know, it's always a work in progress, and it's always about growth. But yeah, I mean, I just, you know, here's a quick funny story. The first deal I ever did, and I just put this out on my Instagram, first deal I ever did in New York City coming to this area, I did a $2,300 rental, and it was off of a Craigslist ad where I found the owner was trying to rent the unit himself. And I said, hey, look, I reached out. I said, I can rent this for you for no cost to you. I'd get the cost from the tenant, and I get the fee from the tenant, and I'll run the background checks and everything. So it was a no-brainer for him. He said, fine. I found him a tenant. I made the $2,300 off of the commission. And I was so organized that I put it in I didn't even have a CRM at the time. I just put it down on an Excel spreadsheet. And I put, call this guy in 9 months when the lease is almost up. So 9 months down the line, I called him up and I said, hey, it's Kyle I was at a different real estate company at the time. And I was like, I put the guy in your apartment last year, and I was just wondering if you knew if he was staying or leaving and if you needed help finding a new tenant. And from that point on, like, we became friends after that. He said that from that point on, I was like, just this little action about calling me and being so on top of it. He was like, that's my guy for my real estate agent, basically, for life. Like, I kept them as a client. So since then, I had done multiple rentals for him. He's an investor in the area, done multiple sales deals for him. And he introduced me to his brother last year that we were looking around for a year and we couldn't find anything, but finally we closed on it last week. And it was a $2.45 million list, or $2.25 million listing. So just off of that was like, okay, there's so much that now with posting on social media, with word of mouth, and with the stuff that I do every day, the outreach, just like the word gets out there. Basically, I became one of the guys that is, where I used to look at these other real estate agents that had all these listings and was like, holy crap, that's the go-to guy. They're known around town. Where it's like, now I'm getting people that don't know me. They're going, oh, Kyle, yeah, like you're basically super famous on a very local level, but you're the expert in the area. So now it's just like a very easy process to get listings because I have the track record behind me.
Got it. So is the acting part, does that give you credit? Do you come across people, sellers or buyers is like, hey, like, I know you're the guy from Billions.
Yeah. No, never. And what's funny is that I never tell people, for some reason, I never say it. I keep them so separate, but I think it's funny because my business partner in real estate also, he was, training for professional fighting and stuff like that. We've talked about this. I've had conversations with him where it sets you apart from a different, just a real estate agent, right? It's set, like, say you are you're meeting with an owner that owns $1 million property that is meeting with X, Y, and Z. And you're all good on the professional level. You're all the same, right? You're all, can offer the same things and you're all pretty even. Well, what's going to set you aside? What's going to put you over the edge? It's just going to be that people like you, or you have a different, the fact that I'm not just like 100% some real estate agent, and I have this other thing, whether it's like, I have this interesting thing about me. It really does set me aside. People see my Instagram once they list a house with me and they're like, oh my God, this is so awesome. You're an actor. And I used to try to hide that from people. Just like on the acting side, I used to try to hide the real estate mindset too. But I think it really helps. Now I'm just putting it all out there. I'm like, you know what? I used to worry about being stereotyped, like, oh, well, if you're an actor, you can't do brainiac business stuff, and if you're a business person, you can't be an actor because that's just like weird. And now it's just like, I've tried to, and what I've realized is those were fears that people were projecting onto me.
Yeah.
That it wasn't, you know what I mean? So I would hear that from an acting coach of being, oh, well, you got to decide, you got to either be an actor or a business person. You can't be both. But that was their fears onto me. It's like, and what I've come to realize very recently, and not too recently, but the past couple of years, is like, no, that's my brand. I can be anything I want to be. Like you can be your own person. No matter what, you can do anything you want to do.
My advice, having all the experience and all the credits, from the filmmaking and acting perspective, you should use that and leverage that for you to help you to build more deals. And look at the guy, what's the name? Clayton Morris. You're familiar with him? Like
No.
he was the guy in TV, and he's building this real estate business. Well, like I heard about him. He used to be a TV. So there's people
He
like
used to be an actor or he's an actor in TV?
I think he was a host of TV show, or he was
Oh,
like
okay.
an anchor. Like he was in TV.
Yeah.
I can remember the exact position. But
Okay.
I'm sure there is more people who are look at the basketball players. I mean, like they're looking to like Shaquille O'Neal. I think he's looking to do the developments in real estate. I mean, there's like people from sports fields, like industries, acting industries. They're looking into real estate. Again, it's just for another source of income. Because I mean, if you have the mentality to succeed in one thing, like I'm sure you can do exactly the same in a business industry. But it's just, again, what you're saying is just people and their kind of philosophies and their thoughts and ideas. But again, you know that you have the right mindset, that again, this kind of circle that kind of you have the belief system for you to accomplish these things. So it's just a matter of you, like how far you can go. So your personal.
I will add one quick thing to that, if I may.
Sure.
So the turning point with all this, with about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and I know that now a lot of actors that are on a high level, they'll branch out. Like Mark Wahlberg, even, I think, is doing some development deals and real estate deals. I heard a podcast with Tim Ferriss and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And this is something you might not have known about Arnold Schwarzenegger because it just wasn't out there at the time. But he was a millionaire real estate developer before his acting career ever took off. He had guys working for him doing landscaping stuff. That was another business, but he was doing development deals in real estate. And the mentality he had was the same mentality I have, which is now why I know I'm on the right path with everything I'm doing, is that other people in his acting class was like, they were worried about getting the next job to pay the next rent or something like that. I know a lot of actors right now that had to move back home because they couldn't pay the bills because they were working in, the restaurant industry or whatever. And now acting and restaurants aren't open. So they had to, were forced to move back home, and they had no financial knowledge. But it's like, you could do anything you want to do passion wise, like any kind of thing you want to get into. If you have the right business mindset to set yourself up, like Arnold was saying, he was like, I didn't care if I got a job. I was set with the development deals I was doing, with the financially, I was set. And that's the same mentality I have about like the real estate. It's almost like maybe I'm doing it backward, or like where most people try to get famous in the acting world and then branch out into real estate, where I'm like, you know what, build it from the start and be able to sustain yourself and build a good life financially.
Got it. So that's a great example, by the way. Yeah, because I knew the story, like the Arnold. Millionaire by like 30 with real estate investments. Yeah. Was it development or like from passive income, but whatever. But
I think he like did the same thing where it was like he bought an apartment building and lived in one unit. Yeah. And it was just as that. It was like that paid for his rent, so he didn't have to worry about bills or something. And then it just snowballed.
House hacking, the way they call it right now. But yeah, that's awesome. 30.
What's it called?
House hacking.
House hacking, yeah.
House hacking right now. But that's awesome. So talking about, again, your prestige properties and, your personal business brokerage. So like, what are you planning to do with it? Like, how big do you want to scale it this and maybe, upcoming year?
We had a lot of opportunities. We were presented with a lot of things right off the bat about going into a certain commercial space that was way bigger and partnering with somebody that owned the commercial space. And we had just, things like that where, we had, I talked to my partner and it was just like, you know what, we didn't want to at the time, like our thing is about going organically. Like if it makes sense, we're going to do it. So for instance, we never really tried to just expand without having this, groundwork. Like we've always been sustainable and growing organically and having this big support under us where it's like you can just sustain growth like that instead of over leveraging yourself and stressing out basically. So now we've built the part where I'm I have my own team as well. Like I'm a big listing agent. I'm still active, very active in listings. So I could sustain it just myself on the business that I'm doing personally. And then we brought on a couple people where they're good and everybody's sustaining themselves and really growing organically. And then, we got an opportunity to open another office in another city. And, it just made sense. It's just like, if it makes sense, we'll do it. But there's been a lot of companies that have come and gone, and, they're supposedly the big thing. Like, they're going to come in and disrupt everybody. You know what I mean? Like, it's like what I like to say is it's like the shiny new toy, right? Like, this big company comes in and goes, hey, we're here. Like, I remember this company, Nest Seekers, came in. They were a big company in New York City. One of their agents, Ryan Serhant, made them famous on $1 Million Listing. Now they're coming to Jersey side. And it was like, oh my God, this is coming and everybody else is going to go out of business. And it was like, okay, that's what you say, go ahead. And they ended up coming and their shop closed up within 2 years. And it was like, we're still around. The thing is that,
I mean, how do you scale and shrink at the same time in that period of time that fast?
Well, here's the thing about real estate, right? Is like, and I always tell people this as a list, like if I'm going on a listing, it has nothing to do with the company that is going to sell your place. It's always going to be the agent. Now, we do things as an agency to make it valuable for our agents to work at our company, but it's never going to be the company that sells your house. Just because you list at RE/MAX, you could have the worst RE/MAX agent or the worst, you know what I mean? So it's always about the agent. So you have to have good agents. It's not about quantity. It's more about quality of agents. And that's what we focused on. And I think that, you get these companies that come in. I mean, Net Seekers is still going on in the city, although I think Ryan Serhant just opened his own company. But like, there's other, I think they're still in Jersey somewhere, but they closed this particular office because all offices are run the same. It's like, if they're not making a profit, it's all about profit. It's profit first. So if you're not making a profit, you can't sustain the losses all the time. So, if they're hiring bad agents and they're not doing any work and, the office is just run poorly, then yeah, I could see why they would close up because the rent is, it's not easy. It's still, costs a lot.
Got it. So the question is for you. I mean, how many brokers do you have working for you at the moment? How many agents?
So we have about 18 that work at our Hoboken office, which is our first main ship office. And then we just opened Montclair, where we're growing very fast out there because we have an agent that we partnered with for that office that is very good with social media. And he's just known around the town. So people were like, wow, we became the shiny new toy for out there for a minute. But I think we're doing it the right way. We're growing. We have about 18 agents maybe working there now. And so we're growing and, we're doing great out there. We have good agents. We're doing good training for them. And, sorry for interrupting.
So that's my initial question that I wanted to ask. How do you actually, what do you do? How do you search for these potential agents that might be working for you? I mean, is there some key traits that you're looking for in a person, or, how is that process working? And how do you know if the person is going to be suited for your company or not?
So what's funny? When I first opened, and we wrote it on the napkin, when we first opened Prestige, 2012, it was all rentals. Like I was saying, I could, it was a different world. It was a different game. So I was doing these rentals at another company, and I knew that we would get these management companies that managed 300 buildings, and they would give us their inventory. And basically we would just pop them. We would basically be able to take pictures, pop it on the internet, get phone calls all day, take clients there, and make money off of it. So I could literally pull in anybody off of the street and say, hey, get your real estate license. You'll make 6 figures, right? Like I could say, get your real estate license, do X, Y, and Z. You'll get phone calls and you'll make 6 figures a year if you want. Now, a couple things happened And with like Zillow is our biggest thing around here where people search. So Zillow, something happened with Zillow where we weren't able to post on there anymore. So what happened is, and this is adaptable in any business, is all of a sudden our business changed. There became like the game plan that we had didn't work anymore. So we had to adapt and pivot what we were doing, where then we were like, look, if we want to sustain this as a real estate company, we have to get into big time sales and like do the real deal stuff. Like we have to learn the craft of getting these $1 million listings and these $2 million listings and being able to talk to people and learn what to say to people and how to do the process and all that stuff. So we actually, it's almost like we relearned a whole new business. Where about 2015, 2016, when the rental side went away. I mean, we can still do rentals and all that stuff. It's just on less of a scale. So it's kind of like, if whatever your business you're in, if it's real estate or whatever, there may be times where whatever you were doing to make your money and that niche that you had, there might be a disruptor that comes in. And if you can't pivot quickly, you're going to be, lost. It's almost the same with COVID. All of a sudden this happened and there was a lot of agents that put their, that stepped off the gas pedal and just goes, you know what, we'll just wait until this blows over and, whatever. And meanwhile, I had the different mindset where I was like, well, now I'm going to step on the gas pedal and pivot my business. We have ways to do things virtually. And I sold a couple of places totally virtually during COVID. And that was, something I would have never thought was possible. So it's like, you have to adapt. That's it.
And it's definitely going to stay for a while. It's
going to stay for a while. Yeah. And if you would have told me before COVID, if you could sell a $1 million place, like virtually without the buyers even seeing it, I would have been like, you're absolutely crazy, but you can do it.
The COVID is disrupting the entire industries. I mean, they have to adapt and everything is changing, drastically. So talking about pivoting, again, you have your hands in some development projects as far as I know. So can you talk about those projects? Are they all in New York, and like how big are those projects?
Yeah, they're around here. Mainly it's like partnerships where it's like, 100 unit buildings where, we found the land. The developer, the guy we have is basically in charge of, he knocked down, demolished what was ever on the land and build it up. And, we then refinance and take the money, get our initial investment back and then, have the stake in the place as well. Now there's, as a real estate broker, there's certain things like every project and every property is different. So for a lot of people, I will actually choose to not be involved in the risk portion of it. Because you got to understand, like, if you're a broker, you get first dibs pretty much on everything you find, right? I'm getting the first looks. So I may take that to a couple developers, and it's like, if there's enough skin in the game and it makes sense, I'll go in on it as an investor, but then also be involved in the selling of it, like the buying of it and selling of it. So make a commission there as well. However, sometimes I'll get deals all the time. I probably got like 2 this morning when I was prospecting, where I'll take it to developers and go, hey, you know what? Like, here's a deal. If there's not enough skin in the game, I'll just broker this thing, where I'll just be part of the buying end of it. And then I'll be on the back end. If you build 10 condos, I'll get the broker. So it's almost like it's not even worth going in on the, investment aspect of it and worrying about, especially now with everything being so like up in the air, but it just depends on the project. So I'm involved in 100 unit buildings around here that I just think are in good areas.
But just as a broker, just on a sales and sales.
Not the 100 unit buildings. No, we invested, I've invested in that. So if you can partner up with a good guy that's the project, I think there's these things all over the place. You can find people that are looking for, as just an investor.
So how do you find those partners? If you say like it's all over the place, how do you come across, like, can you tell your story? How did you came across your partner?
Yeah, sure. So it was quick. I was introduced right when I started making money, like when Prestige was opening. And I got introduced to a financial advisor to figure out what to do with my money, like open stock accounts, retirement accounts, all that stuff. I had mentioned to him about wanting to get into development and, investing around the area. And he introduced me to a guy that did these projects where, we would find a huge land in a good area, and he would be in charge of building it, like he would GC the whole project and build it up. And then we would go to the banks and refinance and grab your initial investment out. And then you would still have your investment into the property, and you would still make the passive income on it. So it was like a no-brainer to me. It was like, I don't even have to, it was like, this is amazing. I could just keep rolling these projects into each other and, have all this passive income coming in.
It's one of those things that you can do on a napkin again, and it's like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it's like, that's the thing. If people think, I've been coming across these things where people have these great ideas or like they have all these ideas and it just seems too confusing. And it's like, and if it's like, if it's too hard to understand and too much, it's sometimes like, it's a no-brainer that it doesn't make sense. Like, you're just getting too confused. And if it's simple and you're like, well, duh, that makes sense to me. That's been most of my successes. And with like, I'm very involved in like cash flow investing. I like investing in properties where it's like, I go out of state for that. I go, cause you can't find that around here. I go into Pennsylvania where I grew up at, because I was looking around here and it was just not enough, rate of return. And I was kind of like, okay, well, let me look back into my hometown. And I did. And it was just like these properties that were, so undervalued in my opinion. And there was good tenants, good people that were living there. And, it was a good area, a working class area. And it was just like, you have so much cash return that it was like, well, duh, this makes sense. And
got it. And can I just ask you, is it the residential or commercial that you're looking for?
Residential.
Okay.
So like, say for instance, I'd find a 3-family house. I always use this example. Like, I'd find a 3-family house that you could buy in a good working class neighborhood and put $50K down, which is your 25% investment. And I would mortgage it out, because it's like, why pay cash for something? It's like mortgage something out like that. And say the monthly mortgage is $1,000, but your monthly rent is $1,000 or is $2,500. It's like, well, you're making $1,500 over the mortgage a month on that. It's like, it just makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do it everywhere. It's very location driven, but it's just like these type of investments are so safe, but it's like, it just makes sense to me. And I tell that to people up here and they're like, well, I would do that once a year at least. And, you're making.
For New York, it's a little bit tougher, right? To find.
For New York, it's tough. Yeah. A lot of times you're lucky to break even, but then that's different type of investment. That's an appreciation play, because people are hoping that your $500,000 investment is worth $1 million in 10 years or less than that, less time. So
it's one of those places just like London, because I spoke with this broker who does the deals in London, just London and Dubai. And he has the same perspective. When I ask him a question like, well, what do you think London is going to go with the entire Brexit, the COVID, the entire thing? It was like, the price is still going to go up because it's London, baby.
London.
It's London. It's not going to change. So it's same with the New York. Everybody knows New York for New York. So it's always
and I always think this, like, the first lesson I learned with cash flow investing is like, appreciation is icing on the cake. So you got to make sure the investment works first. And then if it appreciates, that's icing on the cake. That's amazing. But you can't count the appreciation. I don't feel like, if you get a good property in a good area and it makes sense and the numbers make sense and you think it's going to go up, I mean, that's a good investment for me. And I do a lot of that. I talk about that in my YouTube channel, which is like something, I know you were probably going to plug it in a little bit, but
of course.
I talk a lot about diversifying your investments in real estate. Like it's, I have these passive income plays, these 100-unit buildings where I'm doing this, making these investments. I have these littler units where I'm solely owning them, and it's for a cash flow purpose monthly. Mm-hmm. And the beautiful thing about those is once I got to about 4, that was $4,000 a month over the mortgage, which that turns into $48,000 a year. And I was just able to use that investment or that overflow to put a down payment on another property. So it was almost like they were building themselves at that point. And then it's, then there's other stuff up here where it's more of like a cash flow, where it's like I'm breaking even or something like that, or making a little bit, but it's like you're anticipating the future because of New York City is going to just make it appreciate.
Got it. So I love the fact that you're, again, diversifying, your efforts and, putting cash into different things at the same time. Of course, you're focused on some, certain things, which is like, prestige properties is like you're focusing on growing that because that's kind of probably the main income that kind of generates you those abilities to go and invest in other things, like developments and, being on those deals. But one of the things that I wanted to mention, again, the North Pole, I mean, the online retail company. So how did you came across that idea and what's happening with that company?
Well, funny, and that goes back to acting as well. Like it's all passive income.
Everything ties in back to acting.
Everything ties into acting, to be honest. It's
so just become an actor and it's going to go from there.
Yeah, pretty much. But you got to want it. Yeah. Like it was just being like, okay, well, I'm, ideally, I mean, if I ever thought about where I was when I first moved to New York City to where I am now, I would have been like, look, I never thought I'd get to where I am now, basically. I always thought like, okay, if I had even $5,000 just to break even a month or just something to cover my bills, but I could do that passively, then I could pursue this acting thing full time. But what I came to realize is that like there's acting, especially now, there's nothing going on with it, but there's not much to do sometimes. It's like you're not always going to be hired for a project. You kind of got to rely on somebody else to get hired for a project. So it's almost like, you might not break and blow up and get, this awesome role until you're in your 40s or later or never. So you can't rely on that. But what you can focus on is your business. And, I came across this thing where it was a program and it cost a good initial investment. I think it was like $50,000 or no, not 50,000. That would have been crazy. $5,000 to take this online course. And it was talking about drop shipping, private labeling your own product. And I think I was drinking whiskey one night and I came across.
That's how all good ideas start, by the way. Exactly.
Right. And drink whiskey and want to be an actor and you're set pretty much. That's my takeaways. But it was this little ice ball tray. It was like drinking ice balls. And the course was talking about finding the right product that was between $7 and $40 or something like that. And they're the ones that go the quickest online. So it went from A to Z talking about, and you could probably find so many of these if you're interested in doing it online, but it was just went step by step of how to look these products up, how to ship them in from China. Basically, I don't even see them come in. It was talking about shipping them in, sending them right to the Amazon warehouses, which you can do anywhere in the world now. And Amazon sends them out for a fee, like $3 each unit, drop shipping. So I wanted to try it. I saw some people putting up some pretty crazy numbers. And then during Christmas, the one year, I think it just blew up and I was doing like, I did like 40,000 in sales that month. And I was like, holy shit. It's not like that every month. It was like a good gift for people around Christmas time. But yeah, that's my story with that. It's pretty cool.
So when it comes to the design, I mean, how do you pick it? I mean, do you have an eye for that? I mean, for you to hit those type of numbers, like what? It's funny.
Like at first I tried to get really smart with it again, right? Like I saw these things online and I was like, okay, cool, but I can make my product and modify it. But, and I did try that and it didn't work at first. So it didn't sell that good. And then I just went back to the motto, like, keep it simple, stupid, and see these products that are selling already very well, find the mold that resembled those, and then just make your own packaging and basically like private label it as your own, you know? So it was these molds that were already made, but they were just generic molds, and then branding it with my own brand and, you know, using the same thing that basically I liked and just being able to sell these.
Here you go. Here you go.
But you could go, there are things that I've, you know, got my own take on. And, you know, if you have like an invention about something that you could, you know, ideally get these companies to make you a sample and then test it out and then do it that way.
Here you go. So whiskey ice balls and Klaus surname. That's how you come up with the North Pole, right?
That is, yeah, that's it.
The recipe. Awesome. So can you talk about, again, the restaurant business? As you mentioned, you want to dip your toes into that. So is this what's happening at this current moment during the COVID? Was this idea prior to COVID? I mean,
yeah, it was, well, again, this is like, you know, obviously I have a lot on my plate. So it wasn't something where I'm like, okay, I want to go in and be the restaurant owner operator. I had a contact that, you know, utilize other people. That's my suggestion for you. Like if you want to get into another industry or try another venture, seek out somebody that's already an expert in it or that's doing it. So I had this guy that, you know, we ran around in the same circles. We were just friends. He opened a couple restaurants. He was 100% in, and he opened a couple really successful restaurants in Hoboken. And, you know, I just had mentioned to him, hey, if you ever want a partner, or, you know, if you ever have something for me, I'd love to get involved with you. So that was just a really fun thing that presented itself during COVID, which seems like the worst time to open a restaurant. But then again, it could be the best time because, you know, like a lot of other places are unfortunately going out of business. So, you know, I knew he had his head on his shoulders. It was a great business plan. He presented it to me and he afforded me the opportunity to go with him. And I just, you know, went in on it. I talked to my wife. She was very gung ho. And it's actually, what's cool about this is it's actually 2-in-1 business. It's an American dim sum place for food, but it's also coupled with a flower shop. So the flower shop girl would, she decorated the whole place. And you can basically sit there and, you know, she's one of the partners, you could basically sit there and if you like your, you know, your table, you know, like your, whatever it's called, right in the middle of flowers, you could basically buy them from eating dinner. So it's a BYOB shop. You sit down, you have a great meal. You like some of the decor on the, you know, in the place, and you just buy it. You go home with a flower.
Here you go. Awesome. That sounds cool. Great. So again, you have your hands full, and I mean, involved with multiple businesses when it comes to your own personal brokerage, some developments, again, clothing brands, being an actor, restaurant business. So, I mean, it just continues and continues. And I'm sure you're going to come up with some more, you know, kind of simple ideas that you're going to execute.
I don't know. I'm exhausted just hearing about what I do.
I mean, it sounds like you have the right system to hire the right
That's
people.
Good.
You know, and that's going to work out. So, I mean,
thank you.
From that point where, again, you're an actor, you're meeting a lot of people, again, with the businesses, kind of an esoteric question, but like, what is the one thing that you would like people to remember about you when you meet them?
When I meet them, just that, and I think this comes across is that I'm a genuine guy that, you know, it's, you know, I was kind of worried that the acting thing for real estate people, they would think, oh, is he just acting like he's a real estate agent or he's a good person or something like that. I just, you know, I want them to know, you know, I kind of just want to know, I think the acting stuff helps me with my, you know, I used to be a lot shyer than I am now, but I think it helps me with my personality. So I'd really just hope to be, you know, that's a good question. Just hope to be memorable and genuine and create a real connection with somebody. That's it.
Here you go. Here you go. So I hope you guys connected with Kyle today, even though you're watching this through Zoom, because that's the only way we can connect with people during these times. But
Yeah.
it's
And
definitely
how fascinating and how awesome.
how
You're
awesome.
in a different.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So look, it's been a great time to have you on today. I mean, there's a lot of great pieces that a lot of people will take away. I mean, when it comes to the mindset part, which is like the 80% of the business piece, right? A lot
100%.
of like real estate business tips that are going to be great, you know, construction, investing, you know, clothing
Mhm.
brand. I mean, all those things are there for people to take advantage of. So I really appreciate you for being today on the show, Kyle.
Well, I appreciate you having me. It was a pleasure.
That's no
Thank you.
problem. Guys and girls,
Anytime.
just one question that I want to ask you, if you can share this episode with a friend of yours who always talking about getting involved with the real estate but never pulling the trigger. I think this episode could be very valuable for that person. Again, a lot of great insights and a lot of inspiration that would give for that person for him to, you know, to kind of inspire to take those first steps even during these times, because you see like people who like Kyle is making those moves and making things happen.
And
So
feel free to reach out to me too as well, if
of
that
course,
helps.
that's
Yeah.
what the show is for. That's what the show
Okay,
is
good.
for.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
not
I'd
gonna
be glad to help.
we're not gonna keep people here hanging and, you know, oh, thanks for watching the show. That's the initial part of the show, and that's why I do the show, because I want people first of all to see you, to hear your story, to see what the business like perspectives you have, what the projects you have on in business in general, and then I want people to reach out, you know, to guests, and I definitely want people to reach out to you, because that's the main point of doing the show, because
Great.
it's all about networking, collaborations, you know, bouncing ideas off each other and, you know, making those things happen,
Amazing.
especially during these times. So again, guys, I appreciate you watching. Thanks for being here. Make sure to share the episode, and as always I'm gonna see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much.